topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the show today. I'm so excited to have Sally Helgesen as my guest. And Sally, she's just the world's premier person on women's leadership. She's an internationally known bestseller. She has TED Talks. She's been in this business for over 30 years. And there isn't anything that she does not know about when it comes to women and the workplace and leadership. And now her latest book, which I absolutely love, Rising Together, How We Can Bridge Divides and Create a more inclusive workplace. And I think going forward, that's going to be very important. So Sally, thank you so much for joining the show.
It's a pleasure to be here, Linda. Thank you. Good to see you.
Yeah, I love your books behind there.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. So how did you get into this in the first place? I mean, we've known each other for like 30 years, haven't we?
Yeah.
In various different capacities. So how did you get into this in the first place?
Well, in the late 80s, I was working as a speechwriter in a number of different corporations, and I really enjoyed the work, and I worked at great companies. But I was vividly aware of the inability in the organizations that I was in to recognize women's strengths as leaders, as having, real ideas that would count and could shape an organization. And I remember having one experience where I proposed an idea in a meeting, and it just nobody resonated with it. Nobody mentioned it. They just listened and then went on with what they were going about. And I remember afterwards feeling like, oh, I shouldn't have said anything. I'm the most junior person there, blah, blah, blah. And what was interesting is the idea I proposed, which was a partnership with a group that identified kids in New York City public schools who might be hireable for the company, bring them in. It just didn't go anywhere. But the next year, the Robin Hood Foundation suggested it to the company, and it became a big deal. Now, obviously, I didn't have the pull of the Robin Hood Foundation, but what it did, I mean, I was just, young woman sitting there as a speechwriter. But what it did was I thought, you know what? I had a great idea. That was just the kind of idea that they should have listened to. And I began noticing the extent to which we had really talented women, and they felt like they were part of the workplace, but their ideas, their thoughts, their thinking about the future and what the company could be were never included in anything. So I decided that what I wanted to write about was the skills women had as leaders, which was not a topic. There were books being written then about women in the workplace and, what they needed to do. And they, needed to leave their values at home and be like the guys. I mean, that was the theme. But I thought, nobody's talking about the potential, the positives that women have. So I decided, I was going to write a book about it. And the book was The Female Advantage, Women's Ways of Leadership. And it became kind of a sensation because there was nothing else. So, as happens with most people in their career, timing was extremely important. And I was able to start putting some ideas out there into the workplace in a way that would help shape it or be part of the conversation. Because this was, the late 80s, I got in on it.
Well, I mean, that was brilliant. You know what I thought you were going to, well, two things I want to say. One, I met you at GE because GE brought you in to
Yes.
help with the whole diversity thing and, helping women expand. But what I thought you were going to say is that, which maybe you did, but a woman will come up with an idea, say it at the meeting, everybody ignores it, and some man comes back with exactly the same thing. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, well,
Oh,
that's really
what a
hot.
great idea. Yeah.
What a great idea.
It's essentially what happened to me, but
Mm,
they got the idea. They thought it was a great idea a year later when it was proposed by a group of men.
right.
Yeah.
Of course, and then it sounded like really good to do, really
Yeah.
good to do. So Sally, what were your key transformation points in your career?
Oh, that's interesting. Well, that was obviously the
One,
first
yeah,
one.
yeah,
Yes. And then I think I began to, I started getting invitations from companies, come, GE,
yeah,
wonderful companies, come in, work with our group, give a program, talk about, what women can do to improve their leadership style and make
yeah,
their voices heard. But I felt like I was a writer. I wasn't a speaker. I wasn't an expert. And I would qualify that. I mean, people would call and say, I'm not an expert. I've just wrote a book. And I had this picture of myself as just a writer for a very long
wow.
time. Yeah. And then
And
I
we know
began.
you can give speeches. You've done TED Talks. We know
I've
that.
done everything. I've done everything. I've done thousands and thousands of programs all over the world,
Right,
all over the world,
right.
46 countries, I think I counted. And so that was really hard for me to sort of accept that mantle of being an expert because I was always disclaiming it. This is such a female behavior.
Right. It
And,
is. You're
you know,
right.
uh, and and once I accepted that, and once I learned to, people say, oh, you've had so much influence. I wouldn't say, oh, I just wrote a book or a couple
Yeah.
books, because I've written now 9.
I
But
was going to say more than a couple of books, Sally. There's a few out there.
yes, there are. And that was a big transformation for me because it meant sort of accepting and looking at what I had contributed and what I could contribute. And that's how I always look at things in the last, say, 20 years, is
Yeah.
through a
Very
lens
nice.
of contribution. Yeah.
Very, very nice. Well, you were wonderful. You and I were just in where we were in DC
Yeah. We were in
together at
DC. Yeah.
Fiona McCall. Fiona's been on the show, and your talk was so great. It was
Thank you.
really great being part of
Thank
that
you.
panel. I
Yeah.
just, I said to myself as I listened to you, said, well, I've always known when I love Sally Helgesen.
Thank you.
Always known why. So how did you run into Marshall?
Marshall Goldsmith, who was really influential in my career. In 1995, when I published the book, The Web of Inclusion, I was invited out to San Diego to that wonderful Hotel del Coronado to do a leadership conference for the Peter Drucker Foundation, as it was
Oh,
at that time.
nice. Very nice.
Yeah, so I was the lunchtime speaker. Francis Hesselbein invited me out. And Marshall was there and he was doing a workshop. And we met and we just kind of hit it off. And he had a party that evening for people because he
Hmm.
lived in the area.
Right.
And I went and we all piled in a bus and went out to
Yeah.
where he lived. And I
Which was
talked to
not
him.
shabby.
No, 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 it wasn't shabby. It was pretty fab.
Yeah.
And I talked to him a lot. We had a good time. And about 3 months later, he called me at home out of the blue and said, Sally, I'm putting together a group of people in the leadership world to get together in San Diego. Hopefully, it will happen every year in January. He gave me the date. He said, would you be available? Would you come out? And it was just
Mm.
a casual gathering of colleagues. And he said something that really hit me. He said, what we do is really fun. It's exciting, it's stimulating, but it's also very lonely because we
Mhm.
travel around the world, we do a program, and then we leave.
Oh, that's
And
such a good point.
yeah, and we don't have a real group of colleagues, he said, and I think that's what I'm trying to start. So that spoke to me a lot because I was feeling that, I had a
Yeah,
different life. I had my
yeah,
friends in New York, but
right.
my life was different. So I went out and it was a very impressive group of people, some of the people at that time who were most influential in the
Mm.
field, Jim Kouzes and
Oh,
Bill
right.
Bridges, etc.
Yeah. I
Wonderful
love
group of
both of
people.
them.
Oh, I know. Fantastic, fantastic people. And then Bill later was working with his wife, Susan Bridges, and she joined. So it was a very intimate group. We decided a couple years in that we were not going to expand because it evolved as kind of friendship support group.
Hmm.
And through being part of that, it was really, I don't know, it gave me a sense of belonging
Hmm.
and professional, connections that had been missing. Even though my career was going well and I was very pleased with it. So that was important. But I had this idea. This goes to how women rise. You want me to talk about it
Yeah,
for a minute?
yes. Oh, wow. Yeah, I would love to hear. Oh, that was actually going to be my next question. But I just want to make a comment.
Yes.
Marshall Goldsmith for any, look him up for anybody who's watching the show right now. But he has been a real career launcher for a
Yep.
lot of people. In 95, I was working for GE,
Hmm.
but he really helped me through that whole career expansion on my part. And he's done that with you and so many other people. But go ahead with I'm sorry
No,
to
that's
interrupt you.
fine. I know. And that is true. We pay him tribute for that. So he brought out this book in 2010 called What Got You Here Won't Get You There, huge
Right,
international bestseller. And it was a fabulous
right.
book
It is.
about, how people's strengths also undermine them in their careers.
Right, right.
I thought the book was wonderful, but I did think that it seemed pretty male centric. That a
Yes,
lot of the things that got in people's ways, like, they never apologize or they, are constantly bragging about what they did, et cetera, et cetera. I thought, well, this is not what gets in women's ways. I knew that. I'd
right.
been working in the field of women's leadership by that time for 25 years. And so I wanted to collaborate with Marshall on what I
Hmm.
thought would be a book that took that theme, but did it specifically with women. What are the habits that hold women back from really reaching their full potential? And
I
I felt
love
like
that.
I felt like I sort of had a good sense of it because I'd been on so many panels and this was really global.
Hmm.
So I wanted to ask Marshall if he wanted to collaborate, but it
Yeah.
took me it took me 2 years to work up my courage to ask him if he wanted to
See, that's
collaborate on
such a
this kind of book.
woman's thing, isn't
Oh,
it? It's
exactly.
such a woman's thing. And he said yes immediately, I'm sure.
Of course he did, but what was funny is I felt like what he'd think was, oh, she wants to collaborate with me because she knows we can get a huge advance that
Yeah,
it'll boost the size of her advance, or she wants to collaborate with me because I have, 1.5 million LinkedIn followers. So
yeah.
kind of that he would see me as someone trying to glom on to him. But when I suggested it, he said, that's a great idea. In fact, I've had women who've mentioned that, and I have more and more women that I'm speaking to and working with. And I think working with you would give me much more credibility. So
Oh, I love that. See? Yeah.
so he thought of it completely differently than I anticipated he would be
Hmm.
thinking of it. And so yes, he did say yes. And there were a couple, contractual roadblocks, but we finally pulled that together. And,
Right.
we had clear definition lines. I was going to write the book and,
Well,
we
we
were
know
going to,
that, Sally.
yeah, we were going to review it at various stages and he would
Yeah,
make suggestions, which were
yeah,
always good. And
yeah.
then but he was going to be instrumental in promoting it, which is not my strength
Yeah.
and not really anything I love. And so it just worked fantastically. We've sold that book in 26 languages, which is
Wow.
incredible. And I've done, the programs in Turkey and Vietnam and you know, all over the
All
world,
over.
China, etc. So it's been extremely rewarding, and it just
Nice.
resonates with people in a way that I'd never had a book resonate.
Yeah, that's good. So what are the things that really hold women back? Give me give the audience the cliff notes of what they need to think about. And
Of
what
course.
advice would you give to men? So we'll talk
Well,
about that after. But what are the things that hold women back?
reluctance to claim your achievements,
Oh,
expecting others to spontaneously notice and value your contributions. That's a kind of bedrock one.
yeah,
Overvaluing expertise, feeling if I just become the best person at my job, well, of course, my career will increase.
right.
Perfectionism, um, the disease to please.
Oh,
Uh,
disease to
it's a
please.
big one. It's a big one. There are communication habits that are problematic too. In terms of, failing to communicate what you've done, or letting other people kind of dig it out. So all these kinds of things, they're really, really important. Not investing enough in building and also leveraging relationships,
Yeah,
establishing these
big.
sort of, it's not a quid pro quo, but it's more like, let's help each other. Let's help
Hmm.
each other become more successful. Guys do that almost instinctively. And women, and I feel like I can speak about it partly because I have almost all these things. It was like my thinking of with Marshall. I was thinking like he'll think I'm trying to glom on, and he saw it as a big win-win.
Yeah.
So that kind of, engaging other people to really boost you, in this room, I don't seem to get a lot of support. If I say something that you think is really, helpful, would you just acknowledge it? Because I need that support in the room. That kind of thing, just like even
You mean
micro.
say if you're a woman saying something like that to
Yes,
people?
exactly. Saying that and then building those alliances and then looking for opportunities to do that for other people too, instead of,
Mm,
thinking, well, a relationship is a very private thing, or I want people to know that I value them as friends and not just helping me advance in my career, that kind of thing.
hmm.
So there's something about this book, too much information when you're, speaking to people, that is very, I don't know, it hit and it resonated. And I think it was because it was drawn on a global experience. One of the things I that kept experiencing is, I go to Japan, they say, well, we thought only Japanese women had these habits, or, you know,
Yeah,
we thought
right.
these habits were just, women, in Islamic countries, or
Right.
yeah, I mean, it was kind of
Although
amazing.
Japanese women do subjugate themselves probably more than other. I mean, it's a cultural thing for
Yeah, it's
Japan.
cultural and it's built into the language and things like that.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
it's very um it's very deep. But what's interesting is these are universal and they resonate, but they
Yes.
play out differently in different cultures.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's just been a source of fascination to me. So this has been a great thing. And I do feel like I have made a contribution here that is
Yeah.
pretty remarkable. But in terms of men, yeah, I
Yeah,
think that,
let's talk about that. How did men take to this book?
oh, it really was. I mean, men, at first it was like, well, I bought this for my wife, I bought this for my daughter, I bought this for myself.
Right.
But then I would start to get notes from men. Two things that surprised me. Number one was I heard from a lot of men, I have these habits too. They may play out
Interesting.
differently, but I I don't like to talk about my achievements. I want people to notice them. I heard a lot of that
Mm-hmm.
in a way that surprised me. I remember being with a really high level guy at Google who was the sort of point person on a small conference I was doing of women in AI who were like all seem to have three PhDs, but he was the head of the unit. And he said to me, this disease to please, this is really something that I have. I was like, really? So that was
Well, that
fascinating.
goes with their personality type too. I mean,
Of
there's a
course it
connection, and men
does.
have the same diversity of personality types as women have.
Yeah.
So
So
that's
so
interesting.
so that really was terrific. The other thing is the extent to which men said, this really helps me understand why, for example, men will complain that they try to give a woman a job, a job transfer, a better
Yeah.
job, give them, a leadership position. They'll say, I'm not ready yet. I still need to master this job. And
Mm,
they're like, what is going on with her? Is there
yeah.
something? Is she
Yeah.
pregnant? Why would she do this?
Well, that's the first thing that comes to their mind.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you're past a certain age, then
Right.
they're not then they're thinking
Yeah.
something else. Well, is she
Right.
sick? But
Yeah.
they said it really helped them understand that sort of reluctance that women have and to know better how to deal with it. I remember this one guy who just said, that's the wrong answer.
Oh,
The answer
really?
is yes. This is an opportunity of a lifetime. You may not feel ready for it, but I know you're ready for it. I see that in you. You
Yeah.
have the capability. So
So
just
take the opportunity and run.
run. So take it and run. Just do
Yeah.
it. I'll be there. I've got your back. That's, I think, one of the most helpful thing that a number of men said that they learned from this. They said, this changed my behavior
Oh,
in
see, that's
terms.
fabulous.
Yeah, yeah. So it's been you don't, you write books, they're successful or they aren't. I've had both experiences. But when you really hear from people, this changed how I do things. That's it's priceless.
It
It's
is
of great
absolutely.
value. Yeah.
You really know you had a huge amount of impact there. So what got you to um Rising Together? What because that's your latest book.
Yeah,
Um
rising together, it was partly so many men. What I heard from men was particularly men who felt outside the leadership mainstream,
oh,
um,
interesting.
who were Black or Hispanic, but working in this environment, or who were, an Australian working in a Japanese culture, whatever that
Ooh,
was.
that's tough.
Yeah, it's you see, Japanese are, I mean, Australians are very much in diaspora in
Yeah.
the South and East Asia. So it, I thought, we have to look at ways in which people can feel to some degree marginalized in their career in terms of being recognized.
Yeah.
We need to focus on how they can claim recognition, but we also need to focus on how do you build a culture in which people who are from diverse backgrounds, and this is a global phenomenon. This
Oh,
is not just
absolutely.
the US,
No,
not at all.
absolutely
This is
right.
global. You have
Right.
people of all, you know,
Walks of life. Yeah.
walks of life, yeah,
And
to put
color
it.
and
Yeah,
all
and
shades of
color
gray.
and gender and all of it. You have
Yeah.
it everywhere in the globe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we really need to understand how to build cultures that accommodate people who are diverse. And people are also diverse in terms of their mindset, in terms of
Oh,
their
totally.
expectations and what
Right.
they want out of a career and what
Right.
their work ethic is and all these things. So that's what I was looking at. And I was trying to see, how that shapes a culture to be extremely rich, how it attracts the absolute best talent,
Yeah.
because you're drawing from a really the broadest possible pool. And
Yeah.
then, what kinds of behaviors? I want to look at it in terms of
So
behaviors.
what are the top behaviors?
Well, I think that the top behavior is being really looking for opportunities for recognition, for public recognition, for including people, for asking what are their ideas, and then talking about, not dismissing, but just considering, talking about, thinking about it, including people in, I mean, these things are so simple and so basic, including
But they're
people.
hard.
Very hard.
Yeah.
Thinking about when you're going to have a meeting. Okay, we're going to have the first year and this, how people structure a meeting, who's involved. Think broadly. Okay, who might be able to benefit from this meeting? Even just seeing what's going on in the meeting so they have a
Mhm.
better understanding of what this, say, product rollout is going to look like. I mean, when I talk to very junior people, especially people who are in admin in companies, they often don't even know what the company does, but they
Ooh,
have,
that's kind of shocking, isn't it?
it's shocking because there's no opportunity to find out. They're just, they're really in a narrow niche.
Yeah.
Give them some information, let them see how the company runs.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of very, very talented people
Mm-hmm.
out there. And I think this goes with how we're thinking about things. I know Delta Airlines has this program where they've taken sort of having a college degree the off the list of
Of
qualifications
requirements. Yeah.
requirements for people to go into real leadership positions. And so they can come up through the ranks and they can use that talent and they can get, the qualifications they need, recognizing that the people who interact with the customer are the people who have the best understanding of the customer. And
Right.
hey, they might be running customer service. That
Right.
could be a good
They
idea.
may have an insight that might be very helpful.
Exactly. So, the culture is changing.
Mm,
Part of this is that college has become so expensive that a lot of
yeah.
talented people are just kind of bypassing it or going only
Right.
for a couple years. You don't want to graduate with $150,000 in
Of debt.
student debt. And that's
Right.
very easy to do.
Right.
Very easy to do.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So Sally, so tell me, what is next for you?
Uh,
What's the next big passion that you have that you're going to direct your energy towards?
Well, it will certainly remain in this field
Oh, I'm
because
sure of
this
that.
is
Yeah.
the most gratifying field to be in. And it's also fascinating because it changes so much. And this has
Yeah.
been, the last few years have been extremely challenging because companies have wanted to stay below the radar with any
Right.
diversity
Right.
aspects. And Rising Together kind of got caught in that,
Oh,
just
that's too
as
bad.
that book
Yeah.
came out, companies were being pressured to
To
abandon
drop.
diversity
Right.
initiatives. In fact, in the last 2 years, with the women's leadership work, in March, it's
Yeah.
International Women's Month. That's always been
Yeah.
my big month.
Yeah.
And I've had two out of, say, 25
Oh,
engagements in the United States. I've had plenty outside,
oh,
but
interesting.
it's kind of fallen off in the US. So
Yeah.
it's
So
evolving. And
you are saying that people are really, corporations are really listening to the message that diversity and inclusion is really not important or whatever, and they're going under the radar and they're acting on that.
they're acting on it, they haven't bought into it. That's what I
Oh,
believe, that
interesting.
they recognize it. They have to hire people. They're
Right.
looking for talented people, and they want to develop people, and they don't want a bad reputation among people coming in. And they look at what the population looks like of
Of
students coming in,
course.
how
Yes.
diverse it is.
Right.
So they understand it, they get it, but they're trying to fly under the radar in this particular period by not
Right.
having any big conferences, et cetera, making any
Right.
big statements.
Right.
Um, and they're trying to fly under the radar and just wait till this period passes,
Yeah.
essentially.
Sally,
So,
that was beautifully said. That was
mm,
very tactically said. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
tactfully said.
Well, it's what I see. And
Yeah.
they have a different perception than the people who are, doing this anti-DEI thing.
Yeah.
And one of the things I realized, a lot of the noisiest people on the anti-DEI thing, run these hedge funds. They've got to hire about 6 people. It's not
Yeah,
like
right,
GE. It's not like, a
right,
big company. It's not like
right.
Delta, et cetera. And so they don't even, need to think about it, or they don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
It's really, to me, it's not discouraging. It's just a time to be negotiated. And I am interested in being part of that.
Oh, I
How do
love
we get
that.
through this? Yeah.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
do we get through this?
How do we transform through this? How do we transition?
And it's,
Because it
yes,
will transition at some
and
point.
it'll transition to something else. And we don't quite know what that is. And we hear all this about AI, and it's going to
Yeah.
change, and nobody's going to have a job, and it's all going to be, robots. But I've been hearing it's all going to be robots for 40 years,
Right,
So
exactly.
I'm a little skeptical on a lot of that. Obviously, there are jobs that are being replaced,
Yep.
but I think that in a time of transition, we need to look for clues, and we need to we're just going to need some help in being able to navigate the transition. The other thing is, I find people immensely discouraged. Oh, we've gone
Oh,
backward. Oh, we're going backward. We thought we made progress, but it was just
yeah,
ridiculous. What I have to bring at this point is, I've been in this field, active and a participant, for 40 years.
right.
Before that, I had a career for, 15 years.
Yeah,
So I've seen it all, and I've heard over and over, oh, this is over. This is no longer, oh, that's so 90s, women's
right,
leadership is so 90s, whatever. And it it's not really how it is. So I
right.
feel like I can bring this perspective in a way that will offer hope for and tactics for
Yeah,
navigating through a challenging period
yeah,
that's going to have a lot of impact in
right.
terms of how things unfold in the world.
Yeah, it's really it's kind of a fascinating time.
It
But
is.
I think to your point, companies have to hire.
Yes.
Companies know that if they have a diverse workforce, they can tap into the customer better,
Yes.
and actually they tend to make more money. They tend to make more profit.
Absolutely. And they draw from a wider pool of talent. They don't start off with a restricted pool of talent. Say, we're
Right.
only going to hire this kind of person. We'll hire
Yeah.
the best. Well, you've got, if you want to hire the best, you go to a big pool of
Full
talent,
of
and boy,
yeah.
is it there.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, Sally, so what parting last word do you want to say to people?
Keep hope in your heart.
Oh, I love that.
The gains that we have made in terms of who matters in the workplace, in our communities, will not be erased. They it goes in waves, and having some perspective about that and keeping hope in your heart is
Yeah.
what I think is most important now.
I love that. That is absolutely beautiful. And how do people get a hold of you? Because I know people are going to want to get a hold of you. They always do.
Thank you. Yes, I'm easy to get a hold of. My website, sallyhelgesen.com, has a contact button, so you can
Right.
email me. I'm in a very quiet period right now where I'm rethinking my own
Oh, I
transition.
love that.
So
Great.
I'm not particularly on social media, and trying to email me through LinkedIn is a terrible idea because I
Yeah.
get so much.
Right.
But just, if you want to get in touch with me, press the button, contact Sally Helgesen, and it'll go right to my email, and I will respond.
Well, excellent. Very, very good. So I can't thank you enough, Sally. And it's just been since I've met you, it's just been a beautiful career to watch, and to watch the impact that you've had on women, and the workplace, and
Yeah.
women and men working together, which I think is absolutely brilliant. So have a wonderful rest of whatever part of the time zone you're in. And we will talk again for sure. Absolutely. Thank you, Sally, so much.
Thank you, Linda. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Appreciate it. So, thank you so much for joining the show today, and I hope you will see us and tune in for the next one, which will be coming up very shortly. So, thank you all for joining the show.